It's a great joy to come your way once again for our integrated science class. In our previous sections, we've started looking at electricity. In our very last section, we looked at Ohm's law, and then we started looking at calculations. In our first question, we looked at a case where resistors given were connected in series. And then in question 2, we looked at a case where the resistors given were connected in a power connection. Today we're going to continue by looking at more questions. We're going to look at a case where resistors given, we have both the power connection as well as the series connection. So the first question we are looking at today, we're going to continue by looking at question 3. So still on related questions or calculations. Before we look at question 3, recall, we're still going to have a brief review of the equations we have been using during the calculation. We said that for series connection, connection, so the total current in the circuit is equal to the current flowing through each resistor. So IT equals I1 equals I2 equals I3. So the total voltage is the sum of the voltages across each resistor. So VT equals V1 plus V2 plus V3. And I said for the total resistance, RT, is also the sum of the individual resistances. So R1 plus R2 plus R3. And then for parallel connection, we said that the total current is the sum of the current flowing through each resistor. So that is I1 plus I2 plus I3. And then the total voltage is the same as the voltage across each resistor. So VT equals V1 equals V2 equals V3. And then lastly, we said that the total resistance for power connection is determined as 1 over RT equals 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. And then the last equation has to do with the equation from Ohm's law. This is that the voltage is equal to the current times the resistance. So these are the equations we have been using for our calculations. Let's do question 3. Okay, so you have this diagram. It is from the diagram, determine the effective resistance in the circuit, the effective current flowing through the circuit, the current flowing through the 3 ohm resistor, the 4 ohm resistor, and then the voltage across the 5 ohm resistor. So, as I said in the previous questions that we solved in the last section, that was question 1. We have a case where the resistors given were in series. In question 2, the resistors given were all in power. But if you look at this, we have 3 resistors. Of these 3 resistors, these 2, the 3 ohm and the 4 ohm resistors, are in a power connection. But the combination of these 2 is in series with the 5 ohm resistor. I'm taking that again. The resistors of resistance is 3 ohms, 4 ohms. These 2 are in a power connection. But the combination of these 2 is in series with the 5 ohm resistor. So if you have a question of this sort, which involves both power connection and then series, for you to find the total resistance in the circuit, you first of all have to look for the total of the power resistors. So first of all, consider this portion. That's the power connection. Determine the total resistance here. And then, whatever you get, as I said, these 2 is not in series with this. So, the total you're getting here, for instance, if it is Rp, if the total resistance for this one is Rp, then the Rp is in series with this. So, for series arrangement, the total now becomes the sum. So, that will be this plus what? Rp. So, that's how you determine the total resistance involving questions of this one. First of all, look for the total of the resistors that are in power connection. Let's say you are calling it Rp. When you find your Rp, the Rp is now in series with this one. So the total resistance now becomes this one plus the Rp. And then if you get once you get your total resistance, you can find the total current. From here, this is a battery of voltage 5.0 volts. So after once you know the total voltage and then you know the total resistance, you can find the total current flowing through the circuit. So our solution let's say that let R1 equals 5 ohms, R2 equals 3 ohms, and then R3 equals 4 ohms. As part of the question 2, you're supposed to find the voltage across the 5 ohm resistor. Our 5 ohm resistor is what I've labeled as R1. So this R1, this R2, and this R3. So let's say V1 equals voltage across the 5 ohm resistor. And then let me say Rp, let Rp equals total resistance of the parallel resistors R2 and R3. So as I say, the total of these two, the total resistance of these two, that's the power resistance. You are calling it what? RP. And then let's also say that VP is equal to voltage across the power resistors. Across so from what I said, from that definition, it means that I'm saying that the voltage here, the voltage across this resistor is what we call it V1. And then the voltage across the two power resistors is what we are calling VP. So in that. Okay. Now, so for question A, we are saying that the RP is the total resistance of R2 and R3. R2 and R3, we are saying that they are in power connection. And we say to find the total resistance for resistors in power, this is the formula. So 1 over RT is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. That is when we have 3 resistors in power. But over here we have 2 resistors that are in power, which is R2 and R3. And we are saying that the total resistance there is what we are representing as RP. So it becomes 1 over RP is equal to 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. So for RP, we have 1 over RP is equal to 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. So we do a substitution, 1 over RP will be equal to 1 over R2, which is 3, plus 1 over R3, which is 4. You're going to have 1 over RP to be equal to 7 over 12. So from here, 1 over RP is this. If you want RP, you find the reciprocal of this. So it implies that RP is equal to 12 over 7. And this is equal to 1.714 ohms. So the total resistance for the power resistor, these two, is equal to RP, which is 1.714 ohms. That's to 3 decimal places. Now we have this now, as I said, that's RP. I'm saying that the RP is in series with R1. And we are saying that for series arrangement, the total resistance is the sum. So here, our total resistance for the whole circuit, that is RT, will be equal to the R1 plus the total of these two, which we have found to be RP. So it becomes R1 plus RP. R1 plus RP. So the effective resistance in circuits, that's the RT question mark. As I explained, your RT here will be equal to the total of R1 and then the RP. So R1 plus RP. Our R1 is 5, RP is 1.714. So that gives 6.714 ohms. Okay, so that is the effective resistance in the circuit. A quick recap here. This is very important because, as I said, this is a special case involving both series and parallel connection. I'm saying that when you have resistors connected in such a way that there's both the parallel connection and series connection, first of all, look for the total resistance of the resistors connected in parallel. So in this diagram, R2, R3, they are the resistors in parallel connection. So you look for the total of these two. And we are saying that let the total of the R2 and R3 be equal to RP. Because R2 and R3 are in parallel, for parallel connection, we said it is the reciprocal. When you're finding the total resistance, it involves the reciprocal. So here, 1 over the RP is equal to 1 over R2 plus 1 over R3. It is R2 and R3 because those are the two resistors that are in parallel connection. When you substitute, you will have 1 over RP equals 7 over 12. But you are looking for RP and not 1 over RP. So when you turn this upside down, you also turn this upside down. So RP over 1 is RP. And then you have 12 over 7. When you punch 12 on 7 on calculator, that gives you 1.714 ohms. So that is the total for the power connection. Now to get the overall total in the circuit, you add the resistor that is in series with the power connection. That's the R1. So you add the R1 to the total, which is of the power resistor, which is RP. So the effective resistance in the circuit will therefore be equal to the R1 plus RP. R1 plus RP. The R1 is 5 ohms. We've calculated the RP as 1.714. You add that gives you 6.714 ohms. Okay, so that's for question 1. Now the question A, the D part is asking to find the effective current. Effective current. I told you if you are supposed to find the effective current in a circuit, you always make use of the Ohm's law, which says that V is equal to IR. And then you make I the subject. So you're going to use this equation, V equals IR. And then you make I the subject. It means that for you to make I the subject, you need the V, you need the R. That's the total voltage and then the total resistance. From the circuit, you only have this battery with a voltage of 5.0 volts. So this is the total voltage. So the total voltage or effective voltage is 5 volts. We've looked at the effective resistance already, so we are looking for the effective current. I say using the Ohm's law, V is equal to IR. We are looking for the effective or the total, so we make use of the total voltage, total current, and then the total resistance. So total current, that's the effective current, is the effective voltage over the effective resistance. And that will be equal to the total voltage is 5.0. And then the total resistance is 6.714. upon this, that will give you 0.745. Yeah, this is current, so the unit will be in amperes. So that gives the total or effective current as 0.745 amperes. That's to 3 decimal places. That's to 3 decimal places. C. Question C. The question says you find the current flowing through the 3 ohm resistor and the 4 ohm resistor. So you're looking at the current flowing through this and this. I've told you that for series connection, this total current is the same as the current flowing through the 5 ohm resistor. So supposing you are asked to find the current flowing through the 5 ohm resistor. For instance, that is I1. Your I1 will be equal to I2 because it's the same total current that is going to flow through the R1. So that will also be equal to the 0.745 amperes that we calculated. But this question is asking to find the current flowing through this. Since this is R2, let's say the current flowing through this is I2. This is R3, so the current flowing through this is I3. Okay. Now, I explained in the previous section that anything you are asked to find the current flowing through resistors connected in power connection, you have to look at the total voltage across the power connection and then divide that voltage by the resistances of each of the resistors, and that'll give you the current. So in this diagram, the voltage across the power connection is Vp. Please don't get confused. In the question 2 that we looked in the previous session, there was no series connection. It was only the power connection of resistors. So we said that the voltage across the power resistors was actually equal to the effective voltage or the total voltage. But in this case, apart from the power connection, there is also a resistor connected in series. So the voltage across this power connection cannot be equal to the total voltage, which is the 5.0 volt. But rather, this 5.0 volt is equal to the voltage across the R1 plus the voltage across the R2 and then the R3. So in that case, the voltage across R1 is V1. The voltage across the R2 and the R3 is equal to Vp. So it means that when you sum up these two voltages, that will be equal to the 5.0 volts. Okay, so for us to find the current flowing through the 3 ohm and the 4 ohm resistors, we need to find the voltage across that power connection, which is Vp. So you look for the Vp. And after getting the Vp, if you want I2, you just divide the Vp by the R2. Also, if you want I3, you divide Vp by R3, and that gives you the respective current. So the first thing you've got to do over here is to determine the voltage across the power resistors. Okay. We've also already determined the total resistance here. So the total resistance there, that's for R2 and the R3, is what we are calling Rp. And the current, if you put, for instance, if you put these two resistors together, the total resistance is what we are calling Rp. It is the total current that flows through Rp. So if you want the voltage there, the voltage will be the total current times the total resistance of these two, which is Rp. So that's how you determine the voltage across the power resistors. You just multiply the total current times the total resistance of the power resistors, which is Rp. So voltage the voltage across the power resistors, that's R2 and R3, is what you have indicated in the diagram. We also defined as VP. So your VP there is the total current times the RP. So our VP becomes the total current is 0.745. And the RP, the value of RP was 1.714. So when you multiply these two, the VP will be equal to so that gives 1.277 volts. That is to 3 decimal place. And so now we can find the current passing through each of the power resistors. So current flowing through through 3 ohm resistor, that is, we've labeled it as I2 question mark. So we are looking for I2. So as I say, your I2 here will be the voltage across the power connection, which is VP, over the resistance R2. Your current is always the voltage over the resistance. So the voltage there is VP, the resistance is R2. Because of space, let me do this. So that will be equal to our VP is 1.277 over R2, which is 3. And that gives 0.426 amperes. Okay. So the current flowing through the 3 ohm resistor I2 is equal to 0.426 amperes. Similarly, current flowing through 4 ohm resistor. The 4 ohm resistor, the current is what you have labeled as I3. So just like we did for I2, your I3 will also be the voltage across the R3, which is still equal to VP over the resistance R3. So that will be 1.277 over 4. And that will be equal to 0.319 amperes. Okay. So that is the current flowing through each of the power resistors, R2 and then R3. The last question here is question D. Question D. Question D. Now question D says you should find the voltage across the 5 ohm resistor. So voltage the 5 ohm resistor. Our 5 ohm resistor, the voltage across the 5. That's what we have indicated as what? V1. So you are looking for V1. So our V1 is equal to question mark. our voltage is always the current times the resistance. So the resistance here is 5 ohm. And as I said, the current flowing through the 5 ohm resistor is equal to the total current. So the voltage across the 5 ohm resistor will be equal to the current, that is IT, times the resistance R1. So first of all, let me indicate the current flowing through the 5 ohm resistor. So current flowing through the 5 ohm resistor if that is I1, that is equal to IT. So your I1 will also be 0.745 amperes. Okay, so now let's look at the voltage. So voltage across the 5 ohm resistor, that's V1. You don't know. But you say the voltage is the current times the resistance. So our current there is I1, which is the same as IT, times the resistance R1. So you have I1 times R1. So that will be 0.745 times the resistance R1, which is 5. And that will be equal to 3.725 volts. Okay. So that concludes the solution to the question. Okay, if you recall, I said that the total voltage here, that's the 5, should be equal to this, the voltage across the resistor, the series resistor, and then the total across the power resistor. So your 5 should be equal to V1 plus V2. Meaning that if you add this, your sum should be approximately equal to the 5.0 volts. So if you add this and that, you should get an answer closer to approximately equal to the 5.0 volts. And so this ends question 3. Okay, so the first 3 questions we have looked at so far are questions in which diagrams have been given. We're going to look at some few more questions in which the questions are in word problems. So from the word problem, you are supposed to draw the diagram indicating the connection of the component in the circuit. And then from the diagram, you do some calculations. So our next question, that's question 4, will be a question that involves word problem, from which circuit diagram and then do some calculations. So question 4. Let's say this. So 3 resistors of resistances (5 ohms, 6 ohms, and 4 ohms) are connected to a battery of voltage (12.5 volts). So 3 resistors of resistance is 5 ohms, 6 ohms, and 4 ohms are connected to a battery of voltage 12.5 volts. So that's the question A. If the resistors are connected in series, if the resistors are connected in series, draw a circuit diagram to show the connection or the arrangement. And then I calculate the alpha effective resistance, and then beta, I'll use this, let me change it, resultant resistance, and then resultant current in circuits. Resultant resistance in the circuit, and the resultant current in the circuit. And then similarly, if the resistors are connected and have draw a circuit diagram to show the arrangements. Then I calculate the resultant resistance in the circuit, and then resultant current in the circuit. And the current passing through each resistor. Okay, so this is the question. So in this case, if you take a critical look, there is no diagram. You are supposed to draw the diagram yourself before you do the calculations. So let's look at the solution. For question E, I. We are drawing the diagram. So 3 resistors. So 1. So these are our 3 resistors. Pair of resistance is 5 ohms, 6 ohms, and then 4 ohms. Connected to a battery. So you indicate a battery. After a battery consists of 2 or more cells. So this is a battery consisting of 2 cells. And then the voltage was 12.5 volts. Okay, your total current here is IT. So this is a circuit diagram for series arrangement of the 3 resistors. And then from this diagram, or from there, she calculating the resultant resistance and then the resultant current. So for II, alpha, resultant resistance, RT, let's say that from here, let's say V, R1 is equal to 5 ohms, R2 equals 6 ohms, R3 is equal to 4 ohms. We have R1, R2, R3. For series arrangement, the total resistance is the sum of the individual resistances. So your RT here will be equal to R1 plus R2 plus R3. Your R1 plus R2. So that will be equal to 5 plus 6 plus 4, which is equal to 15 ohms. So that is RT. Now the beta, the total current. For you to get a total current, you need the total voltage. So from the diagram, the resultant voltage, that is VT, is equal to the 12.5 volts. So you can look for the resultant current. The resultant current, that is IT. Now you said that your IT from the Ohm's law to be the total voltage over the total resistance. So the total voltage is 12.5. The total resistance is 15. And that gives 0.833 to 3 decimal amperes. So that's the total current. Okay. Now, supposing you are to determine the current flowing through each resistor. I told you because all these are in series, the current flowing through your R1 will also be equal to IT. So that will be 0.833. The one flowing through this one will also be IT, 0.833. This one will also be equal to 0.8333. So that's for series arrangement. There are other questions that could be asked. If you are supposed to find the voltage across the R1, the voltage will be the current times the resistance. So the current flowing through R1 is IT. So it will be the IT times R1. The IT is what we calculated as 0.833. So it will be 0.833 times 5. Similarly, if you want the voltage here, the same total current, so 0.833 times 6. The voltage here will be the 0.833 times 4. Okay, so that is for question A. Question A. Let's quickly look at the B part. The case where the resistors are connected in a power connection. So for the B part, we are looking at a power connection of 3 resistors. Okay, so you have the 3 resistors. Resistances as 5 ohms, 6 ohms, and then 4 ohms. And then you have a battery of 12.5 volts. So the same thing, let R1 equals 5 ohms R2 equals 6 ohms, and then R3 equals 4 ohms. Now the II alpha, the resultant resistance, RT. You say for power connection, the equation is 1 over RT is equal to 1 over R1 plus 1 on R2 plus 1 on R3. So 1 over RT is equal to 1 over 5, 1 over 6 plus 1 over 4. I'll give you 1 over RT is equal to 37 over 60. So your RT becomes 60 over 37. And that is equal to 1 point. So RT equals 1.622 ohms to 3 decimal places. So that's the total resistance. And then the beta is asking for the resultant or the total current. IT. You said that the total current is equal to the total voltage over the total resistance. The total voltage from the diagram is 12.5. First of all, so you let me indicate the resultant voltage. So the resultant voltage VT is equal to 12.5. So we can look for the resultant current. IT. And say that your resultant current is the resultant voltage over the resultant resistance. That's 12.5 over 1.622. And that gives you a value of 7.707 amperes. Okay, so for the series arrangement, the total current is 7.707 amperes. And then the total resistance is 1.622 ohms. The last question there is the gamma. You have to find the current flowing through each resistor. So here we have the total current here. The total current moves, get to this junction, and then it divides into 3. So some will pass here. We are calling this R1. So the current here is I1. And the one flowing here is I2. The one flowing here is will be R3. Because this R1, this R2, and this R3. Okay, so you are looking for I1, I2, I3. In the A, we said that because all the resistors are in series, the same current flows through them. So for A, the current flowing through R1 is equal to IT. The one flowing through R2 is equal to IT. And the one flowing through R3 is also equal to IT. But this one, in this case, is different. So your I1 is different from I2, is different from R3. It is when you add these 3, that gives you the total current. I said that for power connection, these are the only resistors present, and they are all in a power connection. So the total voltage here is equal to the voltage across each one of them. So the voltage across R1 is 12.5. The voltage across R2 is 12.5. And the one across R3 is 12.5. So if I want the current flowing through R1, which is I1, my I1 would simply be equal to the total voltage, that's 12.5, divided by the R1. I2 will also be equal to 12.5 divided by R2. I3 will be equal to 12.5 divided by R3. And so let's quickly look at that. So still on B, I, the gamma. First of all, so current passing through first of 5 ohm resistor. So the current flowing through the 5 ohm resistor is I1. So we don't know. But as I said, plain, your current will be the voltage over the resistance. So, and they are all in power. So the voltage here is equal to the total voltage. So your I1 will be equal to the total voltage VT over the R1. And that will be the 12.5 over R1, which is 5. And that will be equal to 2.5 amperes. So that's the current flowing through 5 ohm resistor. Now let's look at the one flowing through the 6 ohm resistor. So current passing through the 6 ohm resistor. The current passing through the 6 ohm, that's why I have labeled as I2. So just like I1, your I2 becomes the voltage which is equal to the total voltage over the R2. So you have 12.5 divided by 6. That will give you 2.083 amperes. And then lastly, passing through the 4 ohm resistor. In the diagram, that's what I believe was I3. So your I3 will also be equal to the total voltage over the R3. So that will be 12.5 divided by 4. That gives you 3.125 amperes. Okay, so this gives the current flowing through each of the resistors. As I said, it's the total current that gets to this junction and then divides into the 3 respective currents, I1, I2, I3. So it means that if you sum these 3, it should be equal to the IT. So it means that if you sum this, this, and that, you should give the total current, which was equal to 7.707. Okay. So this brings the end to question 4. And because of time, we're going to end today's section here. In our next session, we're going to look at some few more examples, and then we proceed to look at electric energy and power. So until we meet again, continue to make sure you study hard. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.